The long weekend is just around the corner, and the OPP have a warning for those who will be hitting the road. It says already this year, 227 people have died on its provincial highways, many of the fatalities happening in the GTA and surrounding communities. As Nama Weingarten reports, it's reminding drivers to slow down, stay alert, and importantly, don't drink and drive.
Whether you're planning to go to the cottage, to CNE, or to visit family this long weekend, the OPP is reminding drivers to stay careful out there. It released its most recent stats, showing that from January until the end of July this year, the GTA and surrounding communities, including Waterloo, Barrie, and Niagara, saw the second highest number of fatalities in OPP-patrolled roads in 5 years. 26 fatalities were recorded up until July 31st, and just this month, there were at least 5 more deaths in OPP-patrolled roads. The most recent one happening Thursday, involving a motorcycle that went into a ditch near the on-ramp from westbound Highway 401 to northbound Highway 418. According to the OPP, 10 of the fatalities in and around the GTA this year can be attributed to speeding.
Let's be honest, the highways are safer and the vehicles are safer, but that doesn't mean that we should necessarily be driving faster, as it still is, like this year, the leading cause thus far for these collisions that have caused death.
Road safety advocates say speed has always been a top issue.
But I'm not surprised that this continues to be a major alarming trend. So there needs to be much more to be done, not only at the education and awareness level, but also some zero tolerance in enforcement.
And some think more needs to be done than just warning drivers.
I would want to go a level above speaking to individuals, because we'll never be able to control every bad actor. That's a fool's errand. It's impossible. I want to talk to the people who design our streets, who design our vehicles, and who make our laws. They all need to step up and implement the systemic solutions that work.
After speeding, the next leading cause of road fatalities in and around the GTA are distracted and impaired driving, each resulting in 4 deaths. Steve Sullivan, the CEO of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, says they get nervous every long weekend because there tends to be an increase in impaired driving and other reckless behavior.
I think the challenge is they don't ever see themselves getting into a crash. Like, no one sits in the pub or at their house when they're drinking and thinks, I'm going to go drive and I know there's a risk I'm going to get into a crash. They all think that they're going to get there wherever they're going safely. They might be worried about seeing a police officer, but none of them ever see themselves getting into a crash. It's not going to happen to me. The challenge is all those families that lost a loved one this summer and last year and the year before that, they never thought it would be them either.
Drivers can expect to see a larger OPP presence and heightened enforcement on the highways this long weekend, ensuring everyone is abiding by the road rules. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
School will be back in session for most students across the province next week. And as we told you last night, this year they will be faced with a big adjustment. No cell phones in the classroom. But questions remain around how the new restrictions will be enforced. Today, the Education Minister touched on the matter at a press conference. Queen's Park reporter Lorena Redekop has more.
Because I said so, said Buddy.
Ontario's new education minister visited one school that's already back in session. None of these little ones pulled out a phone during story time. As of September 1st, the new province-wide rules take effect. For students in kindergarten to grade 6, there will be no phone access at all during the school day. For grades 7 to 12, no phones in class, but they can look at them at lunch and recess. One exception is if phones are part of learning. The minister acknowledges it'll be a challenge.
Enforcement is going to be a big issue, and we want to ensure that I want teachers to know this is a new initiative. This is a culture change. There is discipline policies in place, and we will support educators and principals in the actions that they take.
But there are questions about how it'll all work. School boards have been posting about the change and sending out reminders to parents and students. Toronto's public board underscoring that if a student doesn't put their phone away, it's off to the principal's office. Educators agree phones in class have turned into a distraction.
It's just the addictive default. Oh, I don't know how to do this problem right away. It's just to my phone to watch YouTube videos, TikTok videos, listen to music.
We want students to be speaking to their peers who are in front of them, as opposed to be connecting to someone who's 3 floors away.
Up until now, schools and teachers have put in place their own guidelines to keep the phones away.
An example I always like to use is the paper bag. Students are issued a brown paper bag and are asked to leave their devices in their actual knapsacks.
The Union for High School Teachers worries about teachers having to enforce the rules.
We basically play a game of whack-a-mole where this phone, this phone, this phone, and that's what you spend most of your time doing.
She says there are other concerns in education she wants addressed.
It's about funding and education and having the supports in place. And we're talking about cell phones, and we're ignoring overcrowded classes and hot classrooms and unqualified staff and all the real issues in education.
She says one positive is that Minister Dunlop quickly reached out the day after she was appointed as minister. Littlewood hopes the two will be able to meet about midway through the school year to talk about how the new cell phone policy is working. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Durham police have released the results of what they say is the service's largest ever tactical operation. Project Burton looked into suspected gang activity beginning in January, culminating in dozens of arrests. Tyler Cheese has the details.
Durham Regional Police say they've arrested 32 members of a gang known as 2230 operating out of North Oshawa.
They were suspected of being involved in the possession and trafficking of illegal firearms, drug distribution, and various fraud schemes. Their criminal activities stretch well beyond Durham region, reaching as far as British Columbia.
The investigators seized 16 illegal firearms. That includes 12 handguns, a rifle, a semi-automatic weapon, and 2 shotguns. Police say they've traced 8 of the handguns to the U.S. and say they were smuggled over the border. They also say significant amounts of cocaine and fentanyl were recovered, along with approximately $80,000. While police are celebrating the win of getting guns and drugs off the street, they're also expressing frustration about the bail process.
Out of the 32 individuals arrested, 28 were held for bail hearings. Predictably, 13 of those individuals were subsequently released on bail. Unsurprisingly, 3 are now wanted for breaching their new bail conditions.
He's joining a chorus of GTA police leaders calling for bail reform in recent months. But experts say it's not that simple.
It's a delicate balance because as Parliament acts to ensure that we have an appropriate bail regime, they also have to be mindful of fundamental constitutional principles that apply for everyone, and the presumption of innocence.
He says he understands the frustrations of police, but locking everyone up who's accused of a crime risks violating constitutional rights. He also points out that the federal government has recently made changes to bail practices.
They actually did strengthen the bail provisions in terms of reverse onus provisions. So people who are charged with certain firearms offenses are presumptively detained in custody unless they can show cause why they should be released. People who have a history of intimate partner violence are also now presumptively detained unless it can be shown that they should be released.
He says the justice system would be better improved by investing in modern technology like GPS ankle monitors for those on bail rather than introducing stricter conditions. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Whitby.
The man wanted in the death of a Markham realtor and the subject of a Canada-wide warrant has fled the country. York police say border officials confirm 47-year-old Ji Shong Marco Hu traveled to Hong Kong. Hu is accused of killing 56-year-old Anita Moy earlier this month. Her burned remains were found in Parry Sound. Police say investigators will now make an application to Interpol for a red notice, which is a request for law enforcement worldwide to find and provisionally arrest a suspect. Canada has suspended its extradition agreement with Hong Kong in 2020. Well, gun violence in Toronto has been on the rise this year, but one police division says it's bucked that trend by taking a proactive approach to the problem. Detectives at 43 Division in Scarborough say they've actually seen a reduction in shootings in recent months thanks to a couple of new initiatives. Greg Ross has more.
Fighting gun crime at Scarborough's 43 Division has become a #1 priority.
Addressing firearms-related offenses goes beyond just focusing on guns. It requires a collective effort.
Acting Superintendent Ryan Ford says earlier this year he realized the approach to fighting gun violence in 43 Division needed to change quickly. By January 24th, Southeast Scarborough was already trending to be one of Toronto's most dangerous neighborhoods.
We had 7 firearms-related offenses or firearms shootings in the division, so basically 1 every 3 days.
That's when they developed Project Community, and then a few months later, Project Springboard, 2 initiatives taking direct aim at the gun problem by increasing funding and allocating more resources.
We use a lot of technology, computer software. It shows us where these offenses are happening, when, like specific to the time of day, day of week. We're able to pool our resources where they're needed the most.
They've also developed partnerships with other community-based organizations.
Every week, we're meeting face-to-face with the Toronto Community Housing, Community Safety teams, the special constables from the University of Toronto, from Metrolinx. Even our city councillors are here almost weekly.
They say it's already paying off.
These proactive initiatives have led to a combined 48 arrests, 406 charges. We also seized 24 firearms and recovered 3 stolen vehicles.
And they say all of those arrests and seizures have had a huge impact. In the entire month of July, there was just 1 gun discharge in 43 Division, and just 1 more so far in the month of August.
Historically, the summer months are our busiest, so to only have 1 discharge in July and 1 in August, clearly our initiatives were a success.
Greg Ross, CBC News.
Welcome back. Commute times were significantly shortened during the pandemic, but new data from Statistics Canada shows people are seeing long commutes once again, with over 500,000 more Canadians commuting this spring than the last. And as the data shows, Toronto and cities surrounding the GTA are having it the worst, with the longest average commutes in the country. Nama Weingarten has the story.
Gone are the pandemic days of empty trains and roads. New data shows that as of this spring, Toronto is leading the charge with the highest commuting time of over 33 minutes, with more than 15% of people taking an hour or longer to get to work.
Please stand clear at the doors.
That's compared to the average Canadian employee who spends just over 26 minutes commuting, a figure that's now on par with the previous high recorded in 2016. Right behind Toronto are Oshawa, Barrie, and Hamilton, where people spend longer commuting to work than those in Vancouver and Montreal. And people we spoke to at Union Station had some strong feelings about it.
There's just so many times where I'm just standing there and then the bus just vanishes from the app and just does not exist anymore. So I'll just be at the stop and I'm like, where was my bus?
Driving here is a pain. The Gardner Expressway with the 2 lanes closed right now is just insane.
Toronto traffic is Toronto traffic, and it's pretty much just going to be clogged no matter what time.
Stephen Farber, a transportation expert and a professor at the University of Toronto, says he's not surprised by the long commute times seen in smaller cities outside Toronto.
A pretty large share of commuters, living in Hamilton or Oshawa are actually coming to work either in downtown Toronto or elsewhere in the greater Toronto area.
Employees in Oshawa are more likely to experience long commutes than anywhere else in the country. 1 in 5 take an hour or longer to get to work. It's a reality Bilal Malik, who commutes every day from Oshawa to his job in Toronto, knows all too well.
I think about that all the time wasted.
Other commuters who spoke with CBC said that more factors that weigh into their commute time are construction, transit closures, and areas where trains are slowed down for maintenance.
And really what's happened is that because of underinvestment, the TTC has put off critical repairs for years, and it has a huge backlog in its state of good repair budget.
Just earlier this week, Mayor Olivia Chow announced new improvements to TTC services starting September. They're expected to cut wait times and accommodate more riders, as service will return to 97% of what it was before the pandemic. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
Enwave Energy has commissioned the expansion of its deep lake water cooling system. The system has been in place for 20 years and uses cold water from Lake Ontario to heat and cool downtown buildings. As Dale Manukduk reports, it's a big step in helping the city achieve its climate goals.
Lake Ontario has been heating and cooling more than 100 downtown buildings since 2004. It's a partnership between the city using its water infrastructure and Enwave's deep lake water cooling system.
By pumping water through our system, kilometers of pipe underground, and instead of heat being pushed out into the atmosphere from buildings, they deposit it into our water, and we keep on recycling it through an energy recycling system.
Currently, there's 3 intake pipes that go deep into the bottom of Lake Ontario. At the moment, the system services buildings including the TD Centre, Scotiabank Arena, and Royal York. Enwave announced it's putting a 4th pipe into the lake. The goal is to provide more buildings, owners, and operators access to its sustainable energy system.
The pipe that's being opened today means that 40 more buildings in downtown will be able to take the very cold water deep under Lake Ontario, having it piped and cool the building. Why is that good? It's great for the environment, we save electricity, and we also save water.
With the expansion, Toronto buildings are estimated to save 832 million liters of water every year, or for a more timely comparison, the equivalent to nearly 350 Olympic-sized swimming pools. The system is one component of helping Toronto reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 65% by 2030.
There's no silver bullet that accomplishes all the goals, but this is not a trivial contribution. It's quite a notable one. We as Canadians often complain about the cold, but this is a chance to take advantage of that cold and tap into this huge resource of this very massive amount of cold water that's just at our doorstep.
As for environmental impact of putting the fourth pipe in the lake,
we've passed through all of the ECAs and we've worked with all the local different special interest groups. We didn't have one comment. Everybody's been on side. The water out there is very cold, so and we've worked with all the local fisheries and everybody else.
Enwave will soon launch a separate project in Mississauga, building a wastewater heat recovery system to heat and cool 16 million square feet. Dale Manuktuk, CBC News.
The Canadian International Air Show kicks off on Saturday at the CNE. It's 3 days of speed, precision, and high-flying aerial stunts, and we got a preview.
The Canadian Forces Snowbirds are a formation aerobatic team that travel across North America to demonstrate the skill, professionalism, and teamwork of the Canadian Armed Forces. This is a big year for the Air Show. It's our 75th anniversary, and likewise the Royal Canadian Air Force is celebrating 100 years of our existence. And so it's a great opportunity for us to connect with the public and to celebrate both those milestones. This year we have a very traditional snowbird show that's in front of the crowd for most of the time. You'll get to see them over the lake across from the CNE on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and it's choreographed to music that hopefully enhance everyone's enjoyment of the show. This year we get to collaborate with some of our European colleagues, the Red Arrows, who are here at the show.
The Red Arrows display, it's about 25 minutes long, 9 aircraft. The first half of the display, it's all 9 aircraft doing graceful looping and rolling maneuvers, and then as we move into the second half, we split down into sections, and it's the more dynamic, aggressive maneuvering with our red, white and blue smoke. We have some of the same maneuvers back, but we've got a few maneuvers that the crowd, even if they're Red Arrows fans, won't have seen for about 20 years.
We don't get a chance to see aircraft like this every day, so we think for one weekend a year, we bring in some unique aircraft that folks otherwise wouldn't see. And it's really important because our aerospace industry is actually very short-staffed, and we need to try and get that next generation excited about the aerospace industry. We hear from a lot of fans, they used to come when they were a child with their parents, and now they're coming with their children and grandchildren, and so it's become a really important family tradition in the city of Toronto.
All right, let's go to Chris Potter now with a look at the forecast. And Chris, just a few more days left of August. How are they looking?
Well, you can kind of tell that, meteorological summer is wrapping up. It goes June, July, and August. But obviously, we have to wait until, I think it's the 21st this year of September. But you can tell it's just around the corner. I just want to point out sunset is before 8 p.m. I know. Normal daytime high for this time of year is around 24. We peaked at only 21 today, partially because we started the day with a lot of cloud, and it took a little bit of time during the early afternoon for that to clear. Low 20s as well over eastern Ontario. The hot spots, mid-20s across Sarnia, London, and Windsor. And in terms of that cloud cover, it continues to kind of erode off the map, if you will, so it will be clear and quiet. Obviously, no chance for active weather as we get through this evening and through tonight and tomorrow through the bulk of the day. But we have another feature moving in from the west. A lot of activity. Strong to severe thunderstorms ahead of this cold front. As it moves into southern Ontario, we'll lose a little momentum, but we're still expecting rain and thunderstorms. Non-severe in nature, but timing is everything. I'm calling it conveniently timed rainfall, and here's why. We start the day tomorrow with basically a mix of sun and cloud, lots of sunshine for the afternoon. Some scattered showers start to bubble up across Windsor and up towards the Lake Huron shoreline, maybe the odd rumble of thunder, but the main wave moves in for the GTA and much of the area through the evening hours. And for the GTA, it looks like the late evening just before midnight. The risk of rain and a few thunderstorms would continue through the overnight. Daybreak on Saturday, it should diminish, and we're left with a little bit of residual cloud that will start to clear out during the afternoon. Then we're left with clear, quiet conditions as we get through the evening, the overnight, and that's universal even into cottage country. The next system begins to roll into town. This one will be tracking well to the north. Another cold front does move through. It's extremely weak. It looks like midday passing cloud, maybe a couple of drops of rain. That is it. And I think if you're inside for the dinner hour or lunch hour, I call dinner supper, I'm from out east, we will basically miss out on that cloud cover and the couple of drops of rain. Overnight lows basically anywhere from 19 in Windsor, 16 in Toronto to 12 in Ottawa. And tomorrow's daytime high is a little bit higher. Humidity levels will be a little bit higher as well. For the most part, mid to upper 20s, low 20s across eastern Ontario, and possibly as high as 31 down towards Windsor. And all areas will feel basically like the mid 30s. The exception would be in the Windsor area, feeling closer to 40. So in terms of your forecast, I have 27 for the daytime high. Once again, early morning cloud gives way to sunshine, gives way to increasing clouds, then the rainfall. 27 degrees for your high on Saturday, a touch cooler on Sunday with that midday cloud. Monday, we wrap up the long weekend with highs near 21, and then 23 back to school. Tuesday, sunshine. Kelvin.
Yeah, looking sunny. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Chris.
You got it.